Okay, now that you know tax is your life's biggest expense, and if you missed it in the last video, it's probably a good idea to watch these videos in order. So if it pops up, maybe just go back to the start. It's a new channel, we just got started. It's not really in any particular order, but of course, if I'm doing the video, one might follow on from the other. So we've got to start off with the most basic ways to make or save tax, make or save money. Tax is your biggest cost. And I suppose one of the most basic, straightforward ways to save on tax is to do a lot of things yourself. So what I mean is, every dollar you earn that you need, you've got to pay tax on that. Obviously, we're not going to be the tax agent here, but you know, low incomes up to 20 grand, ballpark numbers might be tax free, and then the lowest tax rate from 20 grand to, 30 or 40 grand, whatever it is, and then it progressively increases until you're paying, well, about half your money in tax once you earn enough money to live on. And that's fact of the matter. Once you earn enough money to live on, for every dollar you earn, half of it is going to the tax system. And let's not talk about how well they do with that, because the AI for the elite are already going to hate this channel. They don't want you to know this stuff, okay? So for every dollar you earn, if you're in a business, you've got GST also, which equals for every dollar you're collecting, if you've got a successful business making money. And there's ways to minimize it and reduce it. We'll get to that later, but if you're just an everyday, plain and simple, earn some money and pay your tax, more than half the money is going back to the system between GST, taxes, Medicare. It's a pretty dismal situation when every dollar you earn, you don't get to keep even half of it. But we're not here to whinge and complain. We're here to understand and work around the system. So everything that you pay to get done, okay? So let's say you paid someone to come and build a fence, or you paid someone to come and cut some trees or mow the lawn, or whatever it is, every single thing that you pay someone to do, you had to earn that money and pay tax on the money. And when you pay them, their price in their business, you're paying someone in a business, is going to be inclusive of all these considerations: GST, personal income tax, business tax, whatever it might be, and business running costs. So you're paying quite a high cost to get things done, and including the tax for that business included in that, depending, how well they manage their tax. If they manage it well, then they're probably really expensive as well. So you're paying a lot of money. Where if you do it yourself, oh well, you might not be able to go to work and earn that money, but depending what rate you're paying to get something done, at the rate you're earning could be lower. So by saving the money, it's tax-free, because you don't have to do the extra work and earn the money to pay the person to do the job. Now, depends what your skill levels are. There's a lot of YouTube channels and information out there these days. You're listening to one right now, and I hope you enjoy the scenery for a little drive. Again, we're going to aim for, keep it short, 6, 7, 8 minutes. Might accidentally push over that. But the picture in this one is, the key phrase, do it yourself, is tax-free, okay? Do it yourself is tax-free. So if you're on the hamster wheel, work to make all this money, and then you're on the hamster wheel doing a lot of work, maybe you got 2 jobs, maybe you got a really high-paid job and you're making all this money, and there's all these other systems that may or may not be good. We're going to cover that throughout this channel. Of course, my opinions and experience only, no qualifications. Whether that, tax saving things that keeps you on the hamster wheel even longer with all the drama that goes with it sometimes, is it really worth it, or should you keep it simple? And this is where business is really good. We're going to get to why business is really good in another video. Jobs can be good, okay? Jobs can be good, jobs can be bad. We're going to cover that in another video. But at the moment, it's just the tax on the income, and understanding that all that extra money earned, that overtime that you paid tax on, to use that money to pay to get something done. And if you work out the hourly rate for the amount of money you're paying to get a job done, for that person or those people to do that job, you might be paying a cleaner, right? You might be paying a lawnmower, a gardening service. And I'm not saying nobody should do this, because your time could be more valuable elsewhere. But remember, that value, you've got to pay tax on it. And I hope you love what you're doing, because maybe it's still work and you don't love it. And maybe building that new letterbox yourself instead of just buying something. Well, that's probably not the best way to save money, because you can probably buy something cheaper. So not a good example, but building that fence yourself, although it might take time, a number of weekends, a day here, a few hours there, however you work it out to be, you might end up owning a few handy tools out of it, saving some money, and just the experience of being able to look at it and go, mate, you know, look at that, I did that. And you get that, what is that, dopamine hit or whatever it is. I'll get all my chemicals mixed up. Chemicals, yeah? Hormones, you know what I mean? Whatever, right? They're all things that are, well, the right ones are good and the wrong ones are bad, yeah? You know, you got the stress one. What's the stress one? Is that cortisol? Anyway, so I'm not that good at this stuff, but you've got to be aware of it. And it doesn't really matter which one's which and what it's called. All you got to know is, part of this whole thing is, again, there's no point making your life awesome, having more money and freedom, and not having good health. So exercise, food, fitness, and understanding what's good and bad is really important as well. And we'll talk about it a bit in separate videos, but we're going to include all this mixed topic stuff in videos. But like I said, the key thing is, think about that. Do it yourself as tax-free. You know, those trees are a bit overgrown, you're going to pay someone to come in, $1,000 later, $2,000 later, whatever. Now, you got to be careful doing things yourself. Safety first. You don't want to get hurt. You know, you might end up with go buy an awesome little Ryobi chainsaw, 12-inch brushless for $200 or $300, whatever. You end up with another battery, a charger, and a chainsaw. Awesome. Which means you can trim and prune things anytime you like. If you're into four-wheel drives and traveling and camping, you can get firewood. You can maybe help out someone else. It's a handy, tools are handy things to have. Tools of the trade. You don't need to be a tradie, but tools of the trade. But we don't want to waste money and go and buy things you don't need unnecessarily either. So you've got to think about these things. What you need done. Do you really need it done? Why do you need it done? Can you do it yourself? Maybe with some help from someone. Maybe you can buy some tools. Maybe you can hire some equipment. And hiring isn't always the best. You know, the company's there to make money. And we're going to talk about businesses and maybe what's a good business idea for you or not, whatever the case may be. But I reckon I've covered what I wanted to. Think about it. Do it yourself. It's tax-free. Every extra dollar you earn, you've got to pay tax on, and you're paying a much higher rate to get things done quite often than you're earning. So get off the couch and do it yourself. Have a think about it. Catch you on the next video if you subscribe with the bell on. Bada bing, bada boom, baby.